This season's MVP race in the NBA could end up being the closest that it's ever been, as depending on who you're talking to, there could be 4 different guys winning the MVP this season. You saw James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard, and then the last one would be LeBron James. And as crazy as this season and this award season seems like it's going to be, there was actually one before this, long ago, that could hold the title as the most controversial MVP race ever. In 1990, Magic Johnson won the NBA MVP. Ignore Adam Silver, because I'm pretty sure he wasn't around yet. But while Magic did win the trophy this season, there were 2 other candidates that, besides being extremely close, one of them has the argument of, I got the most first place votes, why the hell didn't I win? The 2 other names, one of them was Michael Jordan, as he was putting up ridiculous scoring numbers, and he was trying to lead the Chicago Bulls to a championship and take that next step as a team. And then there was Charles Barkley of the Philadelphia 76ers, the round mound of rebound, strong as hell, posting guys up. All 3 of these guys led their teams to some of the best records in the NBA this season. And if we can go over just how the MVP voting actually went, well, number 1 was Magic Johnson with 636 total votes. Number 2 was Charles Barkley, who actually received the most first place votes, which is very interesting. How are you voted number 1 by the majority of voters, but because of the combination of second and third place votes and however the hell the voting system worked back then, Chuck actually didn't win the award? That's actually pretty insane. Let's go into his season a little bit here. In 1990, Charles Barkley averaged 25 points, 12 rebounds, 60% from the field, and I actually saw a shot chart from a random season of Chuck's. He shot 80% at the basket. Not in this particular season, but that was like a normal thing for him to do. 80%. That's just ridiculous. One of the best rebounders the NBA has ever seen, as well as just everything he could do in the low post. As a guy who, how tall was he? So many conflicting reports of how tall Chuck actually was. Somewhere between 6'5" and 6'8", I'm going to assume. If we go over some of his teammates on this Sixers team, there was Scott Brooks. There was Rick Mahorn, formerly of the bad boy Detroit Pistons. I'm going to assume the combination of him and Chuck was not a fun one to play against. But there was also Hersey Hawkins, who would actually love it in today's NBA. This season he shot about 2.5 threes, shooting 42% from out there. Kind of a player lost in the wrong generation sort of deal. Can we get a time machine to warp him in today's league? But with Hersey averaging about 18 points a game, he was the real other scorer that this team had. But they were actually one of the best offensive teams in the league, number 2 in the entire NBA. Defensively, it wasn't exactly their thing, as they were a mid-tier team, so they were kind of like the equivalent of an early 90s Houston Rockets. Fantastic offensively, good enough defensively, as these Sixers won 53 games this season. And Charles Barkley, I mean, look, he had a legitimate case for the MVP award. And Chuck has made this known, because you can find a video on YouTube of him flat out saying, I was robbed. I mean, look, on top of just the 25 and 12, nearly 5 offensive rebounds a game, 4 assists, Chuck was just fantastic. And if you look at the team around him, I think it's safe to say that the guys with him were not as good as the teammates that Magic Johnson had. I think Michael Jordan's teammates, and we're going to touch on this too, maybe were around the same area as Chuck's, so perhaps their carry jobs were similar. I don't know. Looking at stats doesn't tell the entire story, and I wasn't even alive for this season, so. But now we can talk about Michael Jordan, and there's an article you can find out there about him in this season where he said, yeah, I could see if there's an anti-MJ agenda out there. Some media members were not about Michael's style of play, with how much he shot the ball, and people were still kind of weirded out by a shooting guard leading a team. Speaking of that team, he had Horace Grant, one of the best role players the NBA has ever seen. Scottie Pippen was not up to his heights just yet. He had not reached his peak potential, so pretty good but not great just yet. John Paxson, who can hit an outside shot, and he would hit some big ones for MJ's Bulls. But as for Michael's numbers, and these aren't going to shock you, which is just a testament to how good of a player he was, 34 points a game, 53% from the field, 38% from 3, 85% from the line, taking about 8.5 free throws a game. I mean, he's up there on the NBA scoring list for a reason. Dude could put the ball in the basket. Unstoppable attack in the rim, and his three-pointer was pretty damn high for this season. But similar to the Sixers, these Bulls were not very good on defense. They were about 19th in the league on that side of the floor, so the lockdown MJ and Pippen years had not happened just yet. But they were also the 5th best offensive team, so they were getting it done on that side of the floor. So a bit of a theme developing here, at least with the first two guys, which is they just both contributed to some great offenses. And you may have noticed that I didn't actually mention Michael Jordan's rebounding or assists. It's because I have a whole segment set up for it. Professional YouTuber here. 7 rebounds a game, 6 assists a game. So MJ was doing a little bit more than just shooting the ball a million times. To be fair, he still attempted about 24 shots a game, but you know what? If you're still getting your teammates going as well, then good for you, MJ. So, I mean, based on the personnel here, I drew the comparison for the 76ers of like a Houston Rockets version of back then. Michael Jordan was like James Harden is now, but he was doing it in 1990. Because, I mean, you just look at the other guys on the team, Scottie Pippen really hadn't taken off to his full potential just yet, and the rest of the guys, you know, nice offensive players, but nothing too crazy. MJ, the carry job he was doing was just really special, which again, we're not surprised by because it's MJ, but he had a real case for it. The Bulls would go on to win 55 games that year, but Magic Johnson and his Lakers, they won over 60 games, 63 to be exact. And Magic Johnson, as we know, he did win this thing at the age of 30, and unfortunately he wasn't in the league for that much longer because of an early retirement, but people still got to enjoy some great playmaking and great all-around play from him. Byron Scott, of course, his shooting guard, Michael Cooper, who was around Magic Johnson and the sixth man of the Lakers for a very long time during the Showtime era. Michael Thompson was the center, as Kareem had retired at this point. AC Green, who is the NBA's all-time leader in games played, noted for his energy on both sides of the floor, gave the Lakers some excitement. And then the number 2 guy at this point, James Worthy. Super athletic, very good post-up player. Big game James. And Magic Johnson's point totals for this season, 22 points, 12 assists, about 7 rebounds, 48 from the field, and 38% from 3. It seems Magic's three-pointer had been developing as well. And this wasn't even the years where the three-point line was moved in, so it seems that Magic and MJ really stepped up their outside shots for this season. And, I mean, I wasn't around, like I said, for this, but I have to assume that maybe there was a question among Laker fans, like, how good can these guys be even with Kareem's retiring? And, I mean, if there were any doubts, Magic said, no, y'all are fine, as he would lead these guys to the best offense in the NBA. But unlike the 76ers as well as the Bulls, Lakers could play defense. Number 8 in defensive rating, which I'm pretty sure they had no idea what that was back in 1990. Maybe they did, I don't know. But a strong collective team effort, headed by Pat Riley, also just a team of veterans who knew how to win, so we're not surprised that they were strong defensively and they had an emphasis on that side of the floor. But the interesting thing is, like, Magic Johnson did not receive all the first place votes. It was the combination of, like, second and third place votes that managed to get him in there because, well, Charles Barkley got the most firsts. as Magic Johnson would win by only 22 votes, which I'm going to assume is not that many. I shouldn't even say votes, it's more like points. So, definitely some controversy with the MVP trophy. A guy who does not get the most first place votes, but still wins the thing? Perhaps Magic Johnson smiling all the time compared to Charles Barkley's sometimes crazy comments, as well as people still not really loving Michael Jordan for his just shooting the ball a lot. I mean, MJ said it himself, he wouldn't be surprised if there was an anti-Michael Jordan agenda, like I said earlier. I think you could definitely find some controversy around this award. This could also have been a Lifetime Achievement Award, given that Magic Johnson was approaching 30 years old and both Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan were only 26 at this point. But, it's very interesting, you know? And I think Charles Barkley definitely has a reason to be mad, but Magic still got it. And between Magic Johnson finishing first and Michael Jordan finishing third, there was only like a 70-point difference. A pretty crazy MVP race, and this season might see the same thing.